begins tonight with the latest information on the apparent terrorist attack in New York City. Here at home, a political ad running nonstop makes one of the flimsiest logical arguments we've ever seen. And we noticed another problem. Tom Tancredo does a cannonball into the pool of candidates for governor. A map shows his path to victory, at least early on. Who schedules a sidewalk tear-out project for Halloween? I mean, come on, people. Your Halloween fails are a lot more funny. And as the Broncos head coach considers a QB change, we're looking at whether it's really the coach's choice to make. Next. First, the latest on today's suspected terrorist attack in New York City. A man drove a rented pickup truck down a bike path. 8 people were killed, 12 others injured. This happened in Lower Manhattan near the World Trade Center. Investigators say the suspect is a 29-year-old Uzbek immigrant named Sayfullo Saipov. They say he drove down a bike path, crashed into a school bus, hopped out of the truck, and fired what was believed to be a BB or a pellet gun. A police officer confronted him, shot him in the stomach. He was taken into custody alive. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo says it appears this was a lone wolf terror attack. If there is any new confirmed information that happens within this half hour, we'll bring it to you here. A week away from Election Day, all of Colorado is being bombarded by TV ads for a local issue in Fort Collins, where voters are being asked if they want to get high-speed internet as a city utility. You know who doesn't like that idea? The companies that sell high-speed internet. But it's not like they can make an ad saying, hey, don't vote for this, it'll cut into our profits. So instead, they came up with this slippery fish. Brandon Ritterman puts it to the truth test.
The main theme of this ad from the opponents is that Fort Collins has bigger and better things to worry about than building high-speed fiber internet. Other priorities like roads that the actors in this ad just can't seem to pay attention to.
Instead, we should invest in public safety.
Yeah, public safety instead, argued the people driving on and not looking at what appear to be real roads. Roads, they argue, would be better to spend this money on.
Instead of focusing on this, the city wants to get into the internet business.
That is really just rhetoric. There's no instead here. The proposal doesn't divert any current city resources away from roads. It would be fair to argue that you'd rather the city make roads a higher priority than the internet, but both are part of a modern city's infrastructure, and cities do have to manage more than one problem at a time. Trash, police, fire, water, the list goes on. This part of the ad tries to make it seem like a binary choice. Do you want better roads or city internet instead? In truth, the world's just not that simple.
Measure 2B would spend $150 million on a broadband network with no plan for how to do it.
There is a fair argument in here, but it does need a little more context. The ballot question does, in fact, allow the city to take out up to $150 million in bonds to build a high-speed internet system. But it's a stretch to say there's no plan at all. There's just not a very detailed one yet. If approved, the city council would be allowed to decide a lot of the details later. Basic things like who's going to run it, the city or a third-party company. They hope to have rates of $50 to $70 a month, depending on the speed you buy, but that's not set in stone either. Ideally, the city would finalize a lot of those details before taking out that bond money. The investors who buy bonds like to see some planning, but a vote for this ballot question is putting your trust in the city council to get it right. Side note, the ballot question does give the city council the option not to move forward if they can't agree on a plan.
And if it loses money, our electricity bills could go up.
This is a true possibility. In the event of a spectacular failure, the bonds would still need to be paid back. In the worst case scenario, if the city built this system and no one wanted it, our partners at the Fort Collins Coloradoan figure that the city could tack about $17 onto everyone's power bill for the next decade or so. Again, if they took out the money and this whole plan just flat out failed. Bottom line, this ad tries to distract your attention using other issues, and failing that, it tries to focus you on the worst case scenario for the actual issue at hand. At the end of the day, this question comes down to whether you believe you can get a better shake on internet from the city than what you've got now. With your truth test, I'm Brandon Ritterman.
As always, we invite you to check our research on these. We post the sources behind our truth test fact checks on 9news.com. It also did not slip by us that people in that ad are talking about safety while they drive staring at a camera. Folks who made the ad said all those scenes were shot in closed areas or in cars that were being towed by a truck. The Secretary of State's office has been sending out daily tallies showing how many Coloradans have turned in their ballots for this year's election. There is a glaring issue. Voters 18 to 25 appear to be sitting this one out. Only about 13,500 voters in that age group have done their civic duty. Compare that to voters 71 and over who love voting and early dinners. 123,630 voters in that age group have turned in ballots. So come on, millennials, chop chop. Voting is sexy. We've said it here before. All right, stop me if you have heard this one. Tom Tancredo is running for governor. He represented the Constitution Party when he lost to John Hickenlooper in 2010. Didn't make it out of the primary in 2014 as a Republican. So our Marshall Zellinger met with Tancredo today to find out why this newly announced third run for governor will be any different.
Is there anyone you don't want voting for you?
Yeah, I do. I do not want anybody who thinks who is in fact a white supremacist or supports me on that basis. If that's why you're supporting me, I will tell you I don't want your vote because I'm not your guy.
Tom Tancredo is back in the news because he's running for governor. Before today, it was to defend the free speech of the white nationalist group VDARE, which canceled its April conference in Colorado Springs.
Believe me, I don't like the things Antifa says. I think they are a hate group. But you know what? If I'm governor, they're going to be protected in their right to express themselves, and so would VDARE.
What you probably know Tancredo for more than anything is his firm stance against illegal immigration. And if he were governor, he said he would punish the city of Denver for limiting how city employees can interact with ICE agents.
And if that meant in some way denying funds to them, to the extent that a governor can do that, and that's not clear, I must tell you, I would do it.
In response to Tancredo entering the governor's race, the Colorado Republican Party tweeted, "This state party is committed to perfect neutrality in the primary. Primary voters must be allowed free choice. May the best candidate win."
Bada boom.
Do you believe them?
I do, because I've talked to Jeff Hayes about that.
He's seen as the most conservative Republican in the race now, and recently met with Breitbart exec and former Trump strategist Steve Bannon.
If Steve Bannon were to say to me, Tom, you know, we can put a lot of money into this campaign, I'd say, great, go right ahead, but he has not said that.
When was the last time you talked?
It was approximately a month ago, I think. Whatever, there was a lot of hoopla around that when he was here in Colorado Springs. I've not talked to him since.
Do you want to be seen side by side with President Trump?
Well, that wouldn't bother me. You know, if he wants to, that's cool. I'd like to have him come out and do a fundraiser.
And here's why Tancredo might like a fundraiser. This is Tom Tancredo's map from 2010 when he was that third-party candidate. The counties in red are the ones that Tancredo won. Fast forward, or rewind, I guess, to this time last year, President Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Trump won the same counties as Tancredo, except he increased it a bunch, so you can see them side by side. Clearly why, Kyle, Tom Tancredo wouldn't mind a photo op with the president.
Yeah, exactly. I think somebody's figured out that Trump polished up the brand pretty well. He may want to take another crack. All right, Marshall, thank you. Our next question comes from a viewer named Steven in Highlands Ranch. He writes, woke up to Cruz ripping up the sidewalks this lovely Halloween morning. I'm sure the trick-or-treaters will be able to see those cones. Honestly, tearing out sidewalks on Halloween morning? That seemed like a pretty significant Halloween fail when Steven sent us photos of the sidewalk to nowhere near Wildcat Reserve and MacArthur Ranch Road in Highlands Ranch. But Dougco Public Works says it's all good, guys. Don't worry, it'll be fine for trick-or-treating. They told us they use quick cure concrete, dries in 2 to 3 hours, so everything should be just fine right about now. They were out working in that neighborhood because they got some complaints about the sidewalks there, and look at that, fixed them just in time for Halloween. Pretty good. We were curious to see if it was common for municipalities to go around ripping up sidewalks on Halloween. Seems kind of counterintuitive, but actually Denver Public Works tells us that it did not push off any work today because of Halloween, because they need every good weather day they can get this time of year. Someone is at the door. I'm just messing with you. We did that to freak out your dog and see if it would blend in with the other trick-or-treaters. But we do have something here for you. The best Halloween fails from Next viewers. We salute anyone willing to share the less than perfect side of Halloween at your house. Not that polished up fake stuff that people put on Facebook and Insta. You know, real life trick-or-treat. Man, did we get a lot of submissions after we talked about this yesterday. Here is poor Ian and what was left of a beautiful pumpkin. A beautiful and delicious pumpkin, according to the deer that stopped by Ian's house and took everything but the stem. Not that appetizing. And sometimes the most intricate pumpkins don't quite go as planned. Cavan tried to carve London's Tower Bridge into the pumpkin. Cavan, you should have known that every bridge comes with various structural issues, and his dad, Corey, says, well, Tower Bridge was just too much for the pumpkin. Hey, listen, be glad you have a pumpkin, kid. They called this one improv at the Marshall House. Michelle says, forgot to buy pumpkins. We improvised with an apple. That is pretty good. Enjoy Halloween. Just don't lose your head because the sign suggests that's prohibited. The Broncos head coach is under pressure to change quarterbacks. What if it's not his decision? And Amazon has saved many a Halloween costume at the last minute, but a young Coloradan's request was probably a first. I hope that you weren't planning on going headless for Halloween. Sorry, Horsemen. The sign spotted by next viewer Amanda J. Russell near Park Meadows Mall makes it clear. Don't bother coming around these parts if you don't have a good head on your shoulders.
I like it. Everyone's getting into the Halloween spirit. Mother Nature, oh, she is too. It's going to be partly cloudy out there, a bit windy. Temperatures, though, sitting in the low 50s, cooling off into the low 40s by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. That sunset, simply spectacular. This is the view from the Loveland ski area. Mother Nature certainly got the memo. The winds they've been picking up, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts right now in Dumont, 60-mile-per-hour speeds across the Berthoud Pass area around the metro. It's been relatively quiet, but we'll get in on the action this time tomorrow. Early in the morning, look at those wind speeds around the foothills, close to 70 miles per hour, where we do have that high wind warning in place. By about 6, 7 o'clock, 50-mile-per-hour gusts toward Longmont, Golden, and in and around the Boulder area. 73 on tap tomorrow, just because we'll be watching those strong downsloping winds move in here to the metro area. A handful of 70s, possibly 80s in southeastern Colorado for our Wednesday. 50s up in the mountains and into the foothills. A slight cool off. We're still feeling good on Thursday and Friday, though, in the 60s. And then for our first weekend of November, how about 75 on Saturday? Not too shabby at all. Are you clapping?
Slow clapping, Danielle.
Oh,
I'm slow clapping.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Broncos, huh? Yeah? That was ugly last night. So I see all the heat that head coach Vance Joseph has been taking about making a QB shift and thinking, boy, it's all piled on this one guy. Wondered aloud to our Broncos guy, Mike Klis, who actually makes the decision about who starts at QB for the Broncos?
Well, Elway has a lot of input. But over the years, if you go look to how Gary Kubiak handled Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler in 2015, he let Gary Kubiak make the final call there. And this time, it's already quite obvious that Elway is letting Vance Joseph make the call. There were reports today that Paxton Lynch would be the guy if there was a change made at quarterback. And then another national reporter said it would be Brock Osweiler. Paxton Lynch never made sense. He makes sense maybe from Elway's point of view, because as a GM, you want to get a full evaluation of your first-round draft pick before you start tinkering with this team in the offseason. But it's too early for that now in 2017. Paxton Lynch is not ready. Vance Joseph knows that. He coaches these guys on the field every day. Paxton Lynch sat out 2 months with an injury. So Paxton Lynch just came back and practiced for the first time last week, and he only had minimal reps as the number 3 quarterback. No way is he ready to go into Philadelphia and take on the 7-1 Eagles. It would hurt his development. It would do more harm than good. I think that Vance Joseph wants Brock Osweiler. Osweiler's been there at practice all year as the backup. He got a few more reps, from what I understand, with the first team last week. Brock has been there, done that. If you're not giving up on the 2017 season, Brock Osweiler has to be the guy, and Vance Joseph will make that call.
Next, the only place sadder than the Broncos team meeting today are the stores selling Broncos gear, though they say one thing always sells. While a marketing expert tells us part of the team's problem is of the NFL's own making. It's not the first Halloween costume held together with tape, but it took an international effort to get this tape to Colorado. And I have absolutely no idea what's happening here. Maybe you do, or at least you can come up with a good caption for us. Send it to #HeyNext while we're away. One barometer of how Broncos fans are feeling after a particularly painful string of losses like this is stopping by a sports memorabilia shop. Bill Vizas has been in the business for 3 decades. He says that Broncos fans tend to live in the past when the present gets ugly.
Today's going to be a quiet day. Always the day after a loss, no matter what, is kind of a Denver hangover kind of thing. So when you aren't winning today, people like to live in their history, their past a little more. You'll see orange and blue all over town, and and like if they're not winning today, they'll pick up an old D logo thing from the 70s or the 60s.
Which of course is interesting because they were terrible back then, but anyway, it's a nostalgia thing. It has never been easier to watch NFL football, though. I mean, it's on 3 days a week. It's on TV. It's online. Not even to mention, as the Manning brothers told us in that one ad, football in your phone, football in your pants. So it's also never been easier to follow a team from halfway across the country, say, when you move to the state of Colorado. A sports marketing professor from Metro State says that is part of the challenge that is facing the Broncos and every NFL team these days.
People are loyal to their football teams, and when they move from city to city, they don't necessarily adopt the home team. So I think we're very used to having a very strong base of fans that will stick with the team through thick and thin. And I think now that we've kind of diluted the fan base a bit with, 500,000 plus folks who probably root for other teams. If you look at a lot of the NFL's marketing, it's all about take your team with you wherever you go, wherever you live.
So, what would fix that problem and fix the memorabilia sales issue? Winning. Winning fixes everything. Not sure when this program became the patron saint of misplaced objects, but Jessica Kay thought that maybe we could figure out what happened at 18th and Lawrence in Denver. That is a parking meter that is stuck in a tree. We could not solve this, at least not in a day, Jessica Kay. But Polly, you win our instant caption contest during the commercial break with parking up the wrong tree. That was really nicely done. Back with a fantastic Halloween costume and an even better backstory. And the next viewer who wants a word about my effect on his wife. As absolutely creepy as Amazon's door unlocking delivery service idea is, I want to show you Amazon at its best. Molly, a 14-year-old Coloradan whose family tells us has high-functioning autism, started planning her Halloween costume over the summer. It's her favorite holiday. She wanted to be Amazon Prime, like the Transformer Optimus Prime made out of Amazon boxes. She drew out the whole thing on graph paper. They gathered the boxes, and then they realized they didn't have the Prime tape. You can't take it off and reuse it. So they're calling up everybody at Amazon trying to find somebody who can help. Marvin works for Amazon in South Africa, went through a bunch of hoops to ship Molly the tape for the costume, even contacted international security to make sure it was there in time for Halloween, and now she is Amazon Prime. That's fantastic. A lot of feedback on tonight's doorbell sound that we decided to play in the middle of the newscast. Doug writes, "Geez, Kyle, that's why we turn off the lights and hide on Halloween, so we don't have to hear the doorbell and the dog bark. It took 5 minutes to get him to stop." Then Ron reports, "Your fake doorbell activated my wife, but not our dogs. What's up with that?" Sorry about activating your wife, Ron. See you next time.